Parshas Bamidbar. This week's Parsha talks a lot about counting. It also talks about who's who. We're looking at Per Gimel Pasuk Aleph. This is chapter 3, verse 1. Reads as follows. Ve'ela toldos Aharon and Moshe. These are the offspring of Aaron and Moses. B'yom diber Hashem es Moshe b'Har Sinai. The day that Hashem spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai. Okay, so that's the introduction. These are the offspring of Aharon and Moshe. Next verse, this is Beis, verse 2. Ve'ela shemos b'nei Aharon. Habachor Nadav va'avihu Elazar v'Samar. These are the sons, these are the names of the sons of Aaron. The eldest, Nadav. And then Avihu Elazar v'Samar. Then, Eila shemos b'nei Aharon HaKohanim, HaMeshuchim, Asher milei Yadam Chaim. These are the names of the sons of Aaron. And then some of them died. And they didn't have children. And then Elazar and Isamar then succeeded to Aaron, or ministered at the same time. And that's it. Now, it doesn't appear that the Torah has delivered the goods. It says these are the offspring of Aharon and Moshe. It says nothing about Moshe's offspring. It only talks about Aaron's offspring. And then it goes on. The Pasuk talks about then it talks about introducing the tribe of Levi into the service. What's going on? Why does the Torah set us up for a description of the offspring of Aharon and Moshe, but it only talks about the offspring of Aharon and not of Moshe? So not surprisingly, Rashi addresses this question. He doesn't formulate the question as a question, but as an observation. He says, "Ve'eno maskir el bnei Aharon." And now the verse only mentions the sons of Aaron. V'nikru told us Moshe, and they are referred to, they're called the offspring of Moshe. Why would that be? Lefi shet limdan Torah, because he taught them Torah. Malamed, and this comes to tell us a general rule, not just about Moshe, but about people generally. Shekol hamalamed es ben chavero Torah, that anyone who teaches his friend's child Torah, ma'ale alav hakosov ki'ilu yoldo. The Torah treats him as though he gave birth, not in a physical sense, but that he created or produced them or generated them. That's why we talk about generations, right? So what we have here is a concept that expands on our understanding of generations. There's physical generation, which is creating the next set from one set biologically, but then there's spiritual generation. And that we achieve by teaching someone Torah. If somebody teaches someone Torah, you're creating, in a sense, a new being. You're creating a being that is infused with Torah. Maybe a lot, maybe a little, but it's a different being. The teaching of Torah is transformative. It changes a person. And the one responsible for causing that change is a spiritual father. Now let's put this in the context of some other concepts in the Torah. We know later on, for example, starting with Pasuk Yud Aleph, that's verse 11, the Torah says, and Hashem said to Moshe, saying, V'ani hinei lakachti es halaviyim mitoch b'nei Yisrael, tachas kol b'chor petarechem b'nei Yisrael v'hoyu li halaviyim. Hashem says, I've taken the tribe of Levi, the Levium, instead of the firstborn, and they will be for me. And then Hashem says, on the day that I smote, this is in the next verse, Yud Gimel 13, on the day that I smote the firstborn of the Egyptians, I dedicated the firstborn of the children of Israel to me. Okay, so there was a designation of the Bechor. And then now Hashem is swapping out that class, if you will, with Levium. What's going on? Well, what happened, as we know, is that the only people who desisted as an identifiable group from serving or tolerating the service of the golden calf, of the Egel Hazav, were the Levium, the tribe of Levi. The Bechorim engaged in this, or engaged in tolerating this service. In other words, they lost their position because they defected, in a sense. This raises another concept of groupings. We have familial groupings. We talked about father and son. We talk about tribes. We talk about the firstborn of each family. The Hava Amina, if you will, the original conception was that the Bechorim would be the designated servants of Hashem from each family. So Bechor means the firstborn. Bikurim are the first yield of produce. And there's a special status to the first. And Hashem had initially instituted this designation of the Bechor of each family. In other words, there'd be a democratic, in a sense, representation of all of the families of Israel, or those who had a Bechor, to the service of God, spread throughout the entire nation. But it didn't work. And so Hashem decided that we need to have a family, a large family, the family of Levi, which eventually a large family is a tribe, to be the servants of Hashem, the designated, we're all servants of Hashem, but to be the ones who are engaged in the formal practice of the avodah, together with the Kohanim. Kohanim are actually also of the Shevet Levi. Now, the Mishna Horiyos talks about different levels of importance among the Jewish people. And near the top are the Kohanim. There's the king, the Kohen Gadol. They're all near the top. Near the very bottom is a mamzer. A mamzer is a person whose personal status is severely compromised because he was conceived in not just out of wedlock, but out of an adulterous relationship. And he has a status, not just a stigma, but a status that precludes him from normal, what we would consider to be normal marriage, normal introduction. He's not the lowest on the levels, but he's way down there. You have the Kohen, the Melech, all the way at the top. You have the Mamzer at the bottom. We have different designations and different roles for different people in Judaism. Something that's a little bit alien to our contemporary Western conceptions of how we should structure our society. This is the Torah structure. It's quite clear. And we have different roles, for example, between men and women, and that's also an issue of contention in today's society. But this is the Torah conception. But there's a variable that can cause a wild swing, and the Chazal say that a mamzer who's in terms of status, personal status, almost near the bottom, and a Kohen Gadol who's at the top or near the top, that Gadol mamzer Talmud Chacham, Kohen Gadol Amoritz, that if a mamzer is a learned person, he knows a lot of Torah, he knows a large amount of Torah, that he is of a higher status than the Kohen who's born into that situation, a Kohen Gadol who's appointed to that position. If he does not have a critical amount of Torah, if he hasn't learned and absorbed a critical amount of Torah, that so much so that he is an Am Ha'aretz, he's basically an ignoramus, then the mamzer is of a higher status. What does that mean? That means that the study of Torah is so transformative that the person who acquires that Torah learning can elevate himself to the very top of the sense of importance. And the person who teaches a person Torah, even if he doesn't teach him to the extent that the student is a Talmud Chacham, but an accomplished scholar, but he teaches him Torah, he's considered to have produced him, have generated him, have given birth to him. Torah is transformative. It can transform an individual, and it can transform relationships, and it can transform the position of an individual within society. It's the super fuel of our spiritual identities. We're about to not only read Parshas Bamidbar and start the new Chumash of Bamidbar in the Torah on Shabbos, but we are about to celebrate the anniversary of revelation of the giving of the Torah, and it's a wonderful time to rededicate ourselves to the study of Torah and to the teaching of Torah, so that we can elevate not only ourselves, but everyone around us to be the best possible Jews, the best possible human beings, the best possible servants of the Almighty that we can be. Have a good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.